All right, I've got a very nice lesson today. Talking about something I've talked about a lot in my last few videos, and that is playing over chord changes properly. So I'm kind of continuing that theme today, playing over a kind of nice, relaxed, slow rock chord progression here. So first, before I talk about the licks that I'm going to play, I'm going to show you 3 of them, and for each of those I'm going to break down the theory and the shapes and the patterns behind those, so you understand what's going on with those licks and you can apply that set of ideas to your own licks. So the first thing to talk about, obviously, then is the chords that we're playing over. So this is a simple 3-chord progression. We're going from C sharp minor rather, to B, to E. So C sharp minor, B, E. That's it all the way through. So the question now is, how do we play over these chords properly? Well, first, the key that we're playing in here is E. You could also look at it as a C sharp minor, I guess, but we're basically playing in the key of E. So the place where we're starting here is the E major scale. In this first lick, I'll play it in a couple positions. So starting at this position right here on the 7th fret on the 5th string, you have this. E major pentatonic rather. So that's 7 on the 5th string, that's the E note. Then you have 4-6 on the 4th and 3rd. Then you have 5-7 on the 2nd, and then 4-7 on the 1st string. You also have a position of the E major scale right here. So that's 2-4 on the 4th string, then 1-4 on the 3rd, then 2-5 on the 2nd, and then 2-4 on the 1st. And then going downward on that scale, it's 4 and 2 on the 5th and 6th string. Landing back up on the E there. So keep in mind those 2 positions. Well, the scale is really just the first part of it. And this goes back to the theme that I've been putting out in my last few lessons. It's not enough to just pick a scale and play a bunch of notes from that scale and have it sound good. It sounds much better if not only you're playing in that scale, on the right scale that fits with the key, but that you're also hitting the right notes over each chord in that progression. So what that means is that when I'm playing over the C sharp minor chord, I should hear notes that are in the C sharp minor chord. Specifically, the C sharp minor, the E, and the G sharp. So you want to hit specific notes in each chord as you play over them. When you play over the B, you need to play notes that go into that B chord, and finally when you play over the E chord, you want to play notes that are in the E chord, specifically the E, the G sharp, and the B. If you don't know how chords are constructed, that's probably where you need to look next. If I'm totally speaking a different language, basically you need to understand that every chord is made up of a specific set of notes. So that's the key, understanding that there's notes that belong to a chord, and we're trying to play the notes that belong to that chord when we're soloing. So let's take this first lick, for example. I start around the B, and the really important part is where you end up on the lick. So let's pay attention to where I end up, and I'll play through the lick once first so you can hear it. That's the lick. So first off, pay attention to where I end up. That note right there. That note is the major third of E, and that's the key part of this lick. I'm ending on a note because the last chord in the progression, we're landing on an E chord. I'm landing on a note that goes very well with the E chord, and that is the major third of E, otherwise known as the G sharp. Here's what it would sound like with the E chord, E note in the background. Sounds very nice, right? So that's the key, is where we're ending up. So we're playing, the first part of the lick is just basically E major scale. We're ending up on a note that sounds really good on that E. So I'll break down the lick note by note here. So hammering up 2, 4. Notice that that's the C sharp minor. So we're starting off the lick very friendly with that C sharp minor. And then 2 on the 4th fret. Then we do a slide up 4 to 6 on the 4th string. 4, which is the B note. We're on the B now, so that works out nicely. Sliding back to the 4 on the 4th string, that is the F sharp, which is the 5th of B. So we start off painting the C sharp minor by that little lick right there, and then when we do this, those 2 notes right there fit perfectly with the B. So and then we get to this part. And the way that you know that these notes are in that chord is by knowing your arpeggios. So when in chord shapes, so I know that there's an E chord shape right here. So when you're playing this, that chord shape is your frame of reference. You target a note in that chord shape, and that's much easier to picture when you're looking at the fretboard rather than looking at a scale, right? You see, a bunch of notes in the scale. It's harder to pick a note out of there to target really well. When you picture the chord, it makes it much easier to spot those notes, and that's the power of our arpeggios. Knowing that chord and the arpeggio underneath it in the function of each of those notes in the scale, that's the tool that we're using here to understand what's going on with these licks. So you can see that once you understand that what I'm doing here, I'm using a scale and then using the shapes, the chord shapes underneath that to come up with this lick. Then it opens a lot of doors. Now you can figure out licks on your own and come up with your own unique spins on what I'm showing you here. Come up with your own ideas, just using that basic principle. Maybe you want to land up there on the E note when you hit the E chord. Maybe you want to land on the 5th when you land on the E chord. And then come back to the 3rd or something. The point is that once you understand this chord shape is there and you understand how those notes fit with the E chord, it's much easier to come up with your own licks that sound really, really good. So that's the first lick. Let me play it through one more time at a slow speed. Okay, this is a really cool lick. So the first thing I do, I'm doing this string skipping. You can do hybrid picking here if you want, meaning you pick with your pick and your fingers. So the first part of the lick is this. So off the bat, what notes do those correspond with? What chord do those notes correspond with on the guitar? You can tell really easily. Those correspond with that C sharp minor shape, right? So we're targeting the 5th and the in the minor 3rd of C sharp minor. and then working our way down to the B chord. So landing on the B when we get there. So let's break this part down note by note. So first, downstroke, upstroke on 4/6. And then when you hit the 5th on the 2nd string, you can hit the 5 with your middle finger here. In that 4/6, this song's slow enough where you can do 2 downstrokes on the 4/6 if you want. So, and then alternatively here, you can do an upstroke on the 5, downstroke on the 6, and the upstroke on the 4. So that's if you want to use only your pick. It's a different sound. You know, there's not a right way or wrong way. You have a more mellow sound with much less attack if you use your finger generally. So when you hit with a pick, it sounds a little bit sharper. So it depends on what sound you're going for, not a right or a wrong way. So that's the first part of the lick. And then we get to this. So watch the phrasing there. Let me play it really slow. So it's 6 on the 3rd, 6 on the 4th, 4 on the 3rd, and then we have this. Slide up and back from the 6 to the 7 and back, then pull off to the 4. So we do this. Pay attention to what chord is underneath right there. That's when we get to the E. And you'll notice that's a B note. It is the 5th, using my E chord here as my guideline. I know that's in the E chord. That is the 5th of E. So then we do this right here. A nice sounding little double stop. And notice the shape here. This is really a partial E chord that we're just sliding up 2 frets and coming back, but we're essentially playing an E chord there, just without the 3rd. So there's an E chord right here. It's just that D shape moved up 2 frets. So when I play those, just to those top 2 notes and not the note on the 1st string, it's basically a portion of an E chord, and that's why that sounds so good over the E chord. Basically you have this sound going on. Sounds really good, right? Again, the theme is using chords as a guideline, and when you do that, licks are gonna sound a whole lot better. So let's play through this lick one more time at a slow speed. Here is the 3rd and final lick, and this one we're doing something really cool, which is we're using our chord shapes to do that Hendrix style of rhythm playing, right? Where we do these double stops. This strategy where you're using chord shapes to picture where you can play notes and where you should be playing notes, this lends itself really well to this style of playing, because that's basically what Jimi Hendrix is doing, and all the people who emulated this style, you know, the Stevie Ray Vaughns and the John Mayer from Jimi Hendrix. That's basically what they're doing. They're using a chord shape, they're picturing that chord shape, and then they're doing those little flourishes over it. So first let's talk about the chord shapes. Again, C sharp, minor, B, E is the chord progression all the way through. So no exception here. So the chords let's play them up in this position now, because this is where this lick starts. Our standard C sharp minor bar chord, then the B bar chord, and then let's go back to that E that we played down here. That's 7, 6, 4, 5 on the 5th, 4th, 3rd, and 2nd string. So 7, 6, 4, 5. So there's a reference point. So just using this shape right here, and the C sharp minor, look at the notes you have available to you there, and combine that with what you have in the E major pentatonic scale. So if I'm playing C sharp minor, it sounds really good to play some things in there. That's basically what I'm doing here. I get down to the B, I have some patterns in here that I could use. So picture this E major pentatonic scale. Sounds really good with B. And then finally we get down to the E. So again, the point is, we're really making use of these chord shapes to understand where we're playing this lick. So let's break this one down. I'm playing in this position. It goes like this, the first part. Sounds really good with C sharp minor. I mean, we're basically playing a C sharp minor chord when we're playing these notes. Pretty straightforward. That's 9 and 9 on the 2nd and 3rd string, hammering up to the 11. Then 9 and 9 on the 2nd and 3rd string. This next part where I'm in this area, when I'm hammering up from the 6th to the 8th while holding the 7th on the 2nd string, that's the B chord. There's that shape. So far we have this. And then the last part of the lick, we do this. When we land on the E. Same as the lick we played last time when we landed on the E. So all together we have this. Sounds really good with fits perfectly with that. For the rest of the lick that we play over the E chord, I go to back to my trusty E major pentatonic scale, and I do this. So just climbing up 4, 6 in the 4th, 4, 6 in the 3rd, 5 in the 2nd, that's the E note. 6 on the 3rd string. And then I slide up 7 to 9 on the 2nd string. Now that note you'll recognize as one of the notes that you play when you play this chord here, the E bar chord up here. So we know that note goes with the E chord. That's the major 3rd of B, and that sounds really good. It would sound like this. Sounds very pretty, right? So that's it. That's the entire lick. I hope you got a lot out of this, and I hope you're getting the idea of using these chord shapes as a guideline to build your own licks. And in the case of this last lick, using that idea to play those Hendrix, John Mayer style rhythm parts, that type of stuff, an excellent tool for playing those types of licks. So let's play through this last one more time at a slow speed, and that will be it for today.